Hi, and welcome to the first episode of 5 Minute Physics with Mr. Nona. In this first episode, we are going to be looking at dimensional analysis, also known as the picket fence method. The dimensional analysis is just basically a very simple way of converting units from one unit to another, such as millimeters to meters, feet to inches, things like that. So we'll start first with this sample problem. How many meters are in 3,257 millimeters? Now there are a few steps you need to take whenever you do dimensional analysis, and the first thing you need to figure out is you need to figure out what you're going from and what you're going to. So if I turn around and I write that down, even though we have it written as a problem here, what we want to do is we want to write it down separately, and we can write it simply so we kind of understand what we're going from and going to, and we can do that using an arrow. So I'm going to use a different color here just to make it stand out a little bit. We're going to go ahead and we're going to use green. And what we have here is we have 3,257 millimeters because that's what we have. Okay? And then we are going to be turning it into an unknown number of meters. Now once you have this step done, the next step is actually, it either requires a little bit of research or requires a little bit of given information. What you need to do is you need to get the unit conversion. In other words, you need to find out how many millimeters are in 1 meter or how many meters are in 1 millimeter. And I went ahead and you can look that up on Google. And I went ahead and I looked that up. And for those of you who don't know it, this is one you actually should know, because conversions in the metric system should be pretty basic anytime you're dealing with science. We know that 1 meter is going to equal 1,000 millimeters. Well, now that we know this basic information, we can actually continue, we can actually go through the entire conversion method. Okay? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to write down what I have. Now when I write down what I have, I'm going to write it in a specific form. I'm going to write it as a fraction. Now what do I mean by a fraction? Well, 3,257 is the same thing as saying 3,257 millimeters over 1. Notice I didn't put a unit. That's because there's no unit up here. And that becomes very important later on when we get into multiple conversions, and we'll deal with that later. Okay, so now obviously millimeters is not where I want to go. That's where I started. I know that because I have, if I look up here, you can see that's where I'm going from and I'm going to. Now the way that picket fence or dimensional analysis works, it's actually very simple. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a little line, and then I'm going to diagonally connect this. What that means is I'm going to take this millimeter here and I'm going to write it at the bottom of a fraction over here. So if I were to continue the fraction line out here, I'm going to write millimeters. Now if you refer back to right here, you'll see that 1 meter is equal to 1,000 millimeters, and all I'm interested right now is in the units. So I have millimeters here, and I have meters here, which means I can go directly from millimeters to meters. This becomes very important when you look at multiple step conversions, but in this case we're only doing a single step, so it's very easy. Okay, so I have millimeters here, I have millimeters here, okay, down below there. I have millimeters going to meters, so that means I can put millimeters here, and that means I can put meters directly above it. Now that I know, now that I look and I see that I'm at meters, and I know that I'm going 2 meters in the final step, I know that I've reached my final point. Now I can fill in the numbers. The numbers I have are right up here. So I know that I put a 1 next to the meter and a 1,000 next to the millimeters. Now the next part you need to remember is that you need to remember that anything that is below the fraction line here, anything that's below gets divided, anything that's above gets multiplied. The last thing you need to do, you need to cancel out any units that can be canceled. So the millimeters get canceled. There's no unit here, so that doesn't matter. The ones don't really matter in this situation. So I know I have meters. That's what I'm going to is meters. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 3,257 divided by 1,000 equals 3.257, and the unit we have left is meters. If you have any suggestions for what I can do in future videos, please leave a comment in the space below. If you have any other questions or you catch any errors, please let me know in the comment space below. Thank you.